Alright, this is Steve from Maverick Paints and the Paint League Company. We're just going to be going through our process of how we refinish pre-finished cabinetry. We've got a cabinet door here. I'm going to be prepping it with a surf prep sander, and we're going to be topping it with the Milesi primer and the Milesi 2K top coat.
Joe with Milesi, take care of the technical questions for the Midwest, and we're going to be going specifically with the HBR1 two-component waterborne urethane primer and with the HKR 114 series two-component waterborne top coat.
Hi, I'm Patrick from Maverick, head of operations. So I'll be chiming in here and sitting in with Steve and Joe.
So really quick with the surf prep, one of the things, this is an excellent tool, and you can actually, it's really not that difficult. You don't want to focus on one edge of the pad and really try to dig in anywhere. These pads will last a lot longer, and you'll get a much better, much better turnaround and much better finish. If it's just you just keep it dead on and just keep it really systematic, and that's good for that side. Just keeping it dead on with good, with good little bit of pressure.
Yeah, you let the spine and the contours. It does the work for you, basically. It fits to the contours.
Yep. Because you're just trying to get a scuff on every surface that needs to get painted. And then I get my edges, and then I actually take one of these little pads just to get in any little details, just to, the very fine details. And then we've got just about every surface. That's all it really needs is just a scuff. You don't need to, you don't need to sand it all the way down to bare wood, or anything like that. Just provide some good, abrasion to all the surfaces.
Beyond just abrading the surface for proper adhesion of the coating is also easing the edges on profiles for doors, which is very important. You never want to have a sharp edge whenever you're doing any type of coating, because you want to make sure there's a rounded area so that the coating can bridge over it and fully protect. Sharp edges can lead to possible points of entry for moisture and possible delamination. So it's very important to always sand your proper surfaces, but also ease all edges.
Give it a nice wipe for any excess sand dust. It's a clean, finished product.
I mean, that's ready for product.
Scuffed and ready.
Yep. I mean, really, because a lot of times, a lot of people think that you need to, sand down to the bare wood. You actually don't with this. It's actually kind of better to just scuff the surface. There's going to be some areas here that are sanded down because we have to smooth out the edges. But for the most part, we just need a scuffed, finished surface, so that actually helps to prevent any dye migration from coming through when we put on our top coats. So we're going to get good adhesion, and we're going to get a great top coat just from this.
It's important to note because a lot of people do think you need to do a total removal, which, in this case you don't. Just a nice scuff for, like Steve was saying, adhesion.
Yeah, and especially if you're in business, that means quicker and better production. So
It's very true.
Yeah.
Time is money.
Yep.
Shop for 3 hours tops, getting both sides of those prime all in one day.
Nice.
Just one guy prepping it with the surf prep and drying it off, and then setting it on the pedestal. Carlos spraying it and carrying it over to the rack, and then by the time he came back, the next door was ready to go onto the pedestal. And we call that a one-piece flow. And I think there's another name for it is the Hasso flow, because Louis Hasso coined that term. So, you know, like shout out to him or whatever. But, you know, with that, it's like you can kind of go through your system one piece at a time, get the top coat, and then if you find out if there's ever any issues with your process or if there's any contamination or anything, you're finding out before you prepped all of your doors and then cleaned them all off and then painted them all. Like you're just, you can say like time out throughout your flow and say, wait, we've got an issue, there's some contamination or whatever. At least you can go through and sand down like 40 or 50 pieces before you found out. So it's an amazing process for turnaround, for production, and that's important.
Joe with Milesi. We're going to talk about mixing our products for today. So we have a couple products here. First is our 2-component waterborne primer, which is the HBR1. Then we have our HKR 114 2-component waterborne top coat for paints. Both of them use the same hardener. In this case, we're using the H&B 40 hardener, although there is also the H&B 1 hardener that you can use. A lot of people have asked me, what properties does a hardener give to things such as our HBR1 primer? And there are multiple things that get added to it. The most important thing for refinishing is tannin blocking. Tannin blocking properties are found within the hardener. Our primer will pull the tannins out, encapsulate them, and protect them from migrating into the top coat. Other benefits of using a hardener are increased chemical and moisture resistance. And moisture resistance is important within your primer coat because we are trying to prevent migration of water coming from all areas on the wood substrate. It also gives increased abrasion and chemical resistance in our top coats, which is important for the general wear and tear for your cabinets. Our products can be mixed 2 different ways, one by volume and one by weight. Most people are used to measuring by volume, but there are advantages of measuring by weight. One of the biggest advantages is that you can mix any size and have easy ratios to work with, whereas struggling with, say, a measuring cup that doesn't have the specific ratios, or reusing a measuring cup where some of the paint has obscured the lines for measurement. A lot of people think that using a scale is complicated and expensive, and that's actually not the case. This here is a very basic scale that you can pick up for $50 that works perfectly for mixing our product. And I'm going to show you how to use it. So first we'll turn the scale on. We're going to take our cup, put it on the scale, empty, hit tare to set it to 0, and now we're able to weigh out our product. So now I've weighed out 165 grams. This hardener is a 10% ratio. Oh, it went to 166. So we need 16 grams of our hardener. So we hit tare again. And 16. Reducing our product, we're going to use water at 5%. And the nice thing about our ratios is that it's all based off of the part A. So we had 160 grams of part A. 10% of that is 16. 5% of that is 8. Once again, we hit tare. Add in the 1. There we go. Once you've used our products, you always want to mix them mechanically. In small quantities, a simple stirring stick is all you need. Give it a nice, thorough mix, and it's ready to go. For larger mixing, we recommend a drill mixer so that you can completely disperse the hardener throughout the coating and have a nice, even result. And now we're ready to spray. differences when troubleshooting. This primer was shot unreduced and we had some issues. This primer here, we properly reduced, had proper flow out, and you can see how much smoother a difference can be. Reduction is incredibly important in checking viscosity, especially if you're dealing with varying temperature changes, which is quite common throughout the United States. All right, Joe again with Milesi. Let's talk about tannins and troubleshooting. So one thing that is a very common misunderstanding of tannin blocking products is how they work. So as you can see, on all the edges that were sanded through, we're starting to see yellow tannin, very common. But this is what we want to see. The way our tannin blocking primer works is it draws out the tannins and encapsulates them within the first coat. So you will see very normally in your refinishing projects this type of tannin occurring. Do not worry, as long as you're using the hardener and then you're doing a subsequent coat, the tannin will be completely encapsulated and not migrate into the top coat. Another issue that people run into is orange peel effect or sometimes texture in their finish and in their primer. And there are a couple ways that we can solve this problem. One way is through equipment and looking at the specific pressures, needle setups to create an optimal spray. And this is something that we're currently working on at Milesi to give better guidance to our end users. So please stay tuned. But there is another way, and it is through reduction. Waterborne coatings are reduced, obviously, with water. We prefer distilled water so that there is no contaminants in the coating when we're mixing. However, there is a flow additive that we use that you intermix with water and then mix into your primers and your top coats. By creating a better viscosity for your coating, you will have a much more glassier layout, better flow out from your equipment, and avoid these types of issues that can occur.